Hello all, welcome. So my name's Alan. I am Director of Marketing for a company called WorkCompass, and it's B2B. We sell performance management into HR departments for organisations where they're big enough to have HR departments. You'll be glad to know I'm not going to be talking about that. Instead, I'm going to be talking about the 15 people that signed up to your service yesterday. And the fact that you probably have around 30 days to convert them to customers before their interest runs out. So yeah, you've got 30 days to convert them to a paying customer. What will you do? So converting customers, it was a problem I had back in a previous life. So I actually founded an ESP years back and eventually sold it. I found I was very good at attracting people to sign up. Found that very easy. Asking was usually enough. However, I wasn't great at turning those people into customers. Something was missing. We had a great product. We had good people on team. But there was a missing piece of the puzzle. So look, eventually I sold the business, I moved on, but I still kept thinking about this problem. There was obviously steps that I was missing, steps that a user needed to go through before they would turn into a customer. So when I sold Toddle, I went on to research what everyone else is doing, and I ended up signing up to hundreds of emails, hundreds of services from all different types of web services, e-commerce, to see what exactly they were doing and track how they guided me. And the result of this is some patterns emerged from this process, a kind of a framework to build an activation campaign. So a user needs to take a set number of steps that leads to an aha moment, or a wow moment as it's called, where they have no problem paying. In my design background, years back, I would have tackled this problem from a UX point of view. I would have been trying to optimize the application, trying to guide our user through the whole user flow. But there was a fundamental problem if people aren't actually coming to the application. So you needed to look outside to email to actually drive this interaction and drive this progress. So you've got 30 days to activate a user. Let's look at the 5 core emails that you need to be sending to these people. First is the welcome mail, quite straightforward. First impressions are very important, sets a tone for the whole relationship, and probably is a deciding factor if a user is going to read future communications from you. It's a very fine line to get that balance right between giving them the information they want and not too much. If you bombard them with too much information in the welcome mail, chances are they're going to save it to read it later, and no one ever reads emails later. Now, there are loads of email examples in this, and I'm going to be flying through them, but the presentation is going to be available afterwards where you can look at them in more detail. So don't worry if you don't catch all the details. So this is an example from a clinic management SaaS product. So they keep their welcome mail very, very simple, very clean. It's thanks for signing up, login details, and a few tips on how to get started. While Asana, which is a project management tool, they try and build some excitement through the design, get you, excited to use their product. Fogbugs, which is a bug tracking software, they tell you up front in the welcome mail what to expect over the course of this 30 days. So over the next 6 weeks, I'm going to send you exactly 3 mails. That's it. I just want to help you learn a bit more about fogbugs. So it sets that expectations for the user up front. They know they're not going to be bombarded. They're probably actually going to look forward to these emails. So the email, of course, needs to contain the important information, user account information, how to get started. So Squarespace asks you to save it for reference later. Now, it's very easy in these welcome mails to forget how effective personal can be. So a welcome from a team is nice, a welcome from a person is even better. And please don't be sending these from a no response email, or please do not respond email. a clinic booking site, whatclinic.com. Every mail they send out to users comes from an account manager with their actual picture, signature, and these are real people in the company. So it tries to build some kind of personal connection. E-commerce site here, Shopify, they provide you with their own support guru to try and help you get started. One global company who I can't really mention, they've got 400 million users, and every email comes from one woman called Liz, who doesn't actually work in the company anymore. And so they haven't got around to changing that. But there's a sense of a real person behind it, and it's trying to build some connection. Now, if you don't want to be putting a real person on it because they might leave and they might not be around, you can create a bit of personality. Like Moo here, all their emails come from Little Moo, which is their robot, and it creates a nice sense of fun for their welcome mails. Now, e-commerce welcomes are a little bit different. They usually send an offer up front in their welcome mail, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later in the presentation as to the reason why they do that. So far, so normal. The second mail to think about, and it very often comes immediately with the first welcome mail, is often from the CEO, the founder, and it's the mission email. It's another opportunity for personal outreach from a real person to try and build that connection. But it often serves a second purpose, and that's to build a mission, to build a vision. And it's an interesting technique. You might have read the book called Made to Stick about the power of stories in marketing. That's what this is. It creates a shared vision. It kind of sets out, well, this is what we're trying to do as a company, and this is where we want to bring you, this is where we want to change the world, and it gets people on your side. So instead of me selling to you, it's me and you going onto the same side, and we're going to march towards this vision together. And this is from our company, and it's a message from our CEO, and it's his personal story as to how he came around to create the company, how he was an accountant. He got promoted to financial controller, a manager. He had years training as an accountant, but he had no training as a manager. And how within the first year he almost got fired. He was a terrible manager, and how it led him on to create software to, build a better process for management, build a framework. And it's awfully wordy, really is awfully wordy. But it's one of our most read emails in our sequences, and it gets the most replies too. The third mail is the activation mail. This is the mail that pushes a user to the point where they see the real value of your product or service, often called the wow moment or the aha moment. This is probably the most important mail of the 5. Twitter, as you know, they need a user to follow 30 people before a user activates. That's the point where a user realizes the value and stick. This is Twitter's core activation metric, and every email pushes the user towards this point. Facebook follows a similar track. As an aside, when I was looking back on this last week, I was looking back over all the mails that I'd got over Twitter, from Twitter, to try and activate me. So I'd created an account, but I hadn't actually, interacted with them. So in the first year from Twitter, I got 182 mails trying to activate me, trying to push me towards this point. The following year, I got 400 mails. So this is how important this metric is for them, and this is how much they try and push users towards it. And Alex raised an interesting point earlier regards the issue of quality versus quantity, and Twitter may need to look at that. So Dropbox, which is, I'm sure you all know, their core activation metric is getting a user to install the desktop app. So all their mails, their sequence of mails, kind of pushes a user towards that. So I touched on e-commerce earlier in the welcome. So the key activation for an e-commerce site is that very first purchase. Once a user buys a product from an e-commerce store, the product arrives, confidence is built, and there's a trust in that relationship. From that point on, that user is activated and they'll be more likely to buy in future. So e-commerce sites tend to push some kind of voucher, discount, sale, usually with a time limit from the very, very start to try and get the user to buy. And they usually push this from the very start because that's where the user is mostly engaged from when they signed up. So activation is the critical link between user acquisition and revenue. And this is one of the core points I was missing way back when I was running Toddle. So how many people here think they know what their activation point is for their product or service? Wow. So how do you find that out? Ask them these three questions. Ask your existing users these three questions. So this was developed by Sean Ellis of Growth Hacker fame, who developed a series of questions with a tool called survey.io, which is a free tool. You can drop a bit of code onto your site to survey users. And so with these three questions, you find out what the core value of your service is. Not what you think the core value of your service is, but what customers think the core value of your service is. And it's interesting to look at the actual language that they use, not the language that you use yourself, and then you change your activation mails accordingly. Now, it's not always possible to jump straight to the activation. Some products are a little bit more complicated. They need a few more steps. The likes of MailChimp have a series of 9 mails that kind of walk you through all the different steps of their product to get you to the point where you realize, oh wow, this is great, I'm now sending emails. It's also a great excuse to keep in regular contact over that 30-day period to keep that relationship going with a user. As another aside, looking back on this week, I noticed that MailChimp actually repeat this process a year after you sign up. So you didn't activate in the first year, they come back the next year again and they try again. And you probably have this content already from your support team, from your sales team. They're being asked questions all the time from users. So it should be pretty easy to pull this together. And remember to push benefits, not features. It's very basic, of course, I'm sorry. Facebook do not push the feature of importing your contacts from Gmail. They push the benefit of connecting with all your friends. Shopify lead with the benefit of getting more sales, not put up a product for sale. So Squarespace, they decide to put all their steps by steps into one course through an in-depth video, and they push that through their activation. While Basecamp go for a more one-on-one webinar where you can actually interact with the core product team or the core marketing team. Now, what I've talked about so far, almost anyone here can set up. Most of the ESPs have some kind of automation system where you can automatically send a series of emails based on the time the user signs up. And you'll probably end up doing a bit of testing around about best times to send, the right sequence, etc. But how much more powerful would it be if you could send when you know the user is in front of your product right now, and you know what they just did, and then you can tell them what the next step is. Now, you're probably going to need some kind of engineering help, plugging into your existing product or service, but tools like intercom.io are making this a whole lot easier. So, in terms of automating and putting some intelligence into your activation campaign, the bug tracking and software company BugHerd, their activation is to get you to install a piece of code, right? And they have a whole series of mails trying to push for this. And they'll repeat that until you do. And if you don't, once you install that, they'll then move you on to a separate sequence of mails where they try and get you to use the product more and engage with it more. And if you don't do that after a period of time, they'll turn you into a third sequence where they try and re-engage you and get you to sign up again. Tumblr do something a little similar. And their emails highlighted what you have done already and what your try and push you to the next step. Crossing out what the user has done is great for reinforcing user behavior and giving users a sense of completion and driving them to the next step. I've also seen this, referring to Beck's talk yesterday, I've seen this done very well with sign-up forms, where you have a little tick beside each box as the user fills it out. It can really drive more conversions through a sign-up form. So according to Expert Sender, triggered emails, their open rates are up to 4 times higher than timed mails. Now in e-commerce, about 65% of people quit before they activate during the checkout process. So sites, e-commerce sites like made.com, they use triggered emails to try and tempt users back with cart abandonment mails. Mark Robbins had a great example yesterday of this. So once a user abandons the cart, send them a simple reminder just to go back before your shopping cart expires. Set time limits on deals, give them a discount. These are great, all great mails to try and send to try and get a user to come back and activate for that first time. So sending perfectly timed emails results not just in an activated customer, but can increase sales by 15 to 30% according to the Direct Marketing Association. So it's really worth looking at. All right, so mail 4 in the sequence. Now this is a clock, not a bomb. Just want to make that clear. This is a mail or a series of mails that your trial is about to expire. So a common tactic used is you're about to lose data, you're about to lose whatever you have invested into your trial so far. An example from Microsoft: you're about to lose the data from your Microsoft Office trial. Now it's the fear of losing something is a really powerful motivator for driving user behavior, as opposed to the fear, the opportunity of gaining something. So it's worth playing on that for that last set of mails. Now normally that is the end of the mail sequence, but there's one more to consider. The Hail Mary. So the 30-day trial is over, the user did not buy, but it's worth trying to engage them again. For some users, they just weren't interested in your product at the time. They didn't have time to test it out. But ask them if they want to extend the trial. If they may be interested in looking at it again. SugarSync offer a discount, so you didn't buy first time. Maybe the price point was too high, but if you can still make some money out of this, try a lower price, or maybe offer a limited time on a lower price to try and get them back. And again, put a time limit on all these offers, because that's a really good driver. Or you can use this as a learning experience, like FreshBooks and Zendesk do this. So why didn't people sign up during the trial? They were obviously interested at the start, so something must have been wrong, right? So ask the user, are you still interested? Was price an issue? Was the product too hard to use? Did you go with a competitor? It didn't meet my needs. The trial was too short, or I was never interested in the first place. I was just doing some research for a presentation. Now there is no downside to the Hail Mary mail, only potential upside. And so that's mostly it. So 30 days ago, someone signed up to your service. You gave them a warm welcome, got them excited. You guided them step by step into finding value from your product. You found out what the person needed and you gave it to them. And when they forgot, you gave them a gentle and maybe not so gentle nudge. And you know something? You can automate all this while you get on with the rest of your work. So that's it. There is a book on this, right? It goes for about a tenner on Amazon, but you're all lovely people. So you can get it free. You can download it free if you use that code at the end from the book. And I'll have 2 copies to give away to whoever comes up at the speed dating. And that's it. Thank you very much.